am unfortunately from Florida, which is especially unfortunate given the political state of this horrible place. It's a little embarrassing to even admit, but you can't help where you were raised. But we do have some nice things here, like alligators and extreme heat that makes you feel like you're on the literal surface of the sun. Jokes aside, there is a reason that I am telling you this. One of my favorite things to do in The Sims is recreate real life houses in the game. And I do this all the time. I am constantly looking for photos of houses that I might want to try and build. And you might have noticed that the kind of houses that I like to build do not look anything like the stuff that you might find here in Florida. I don't really know how to say this in a nice way, but I kind of think that Florida houses are ugly. I'll show you a couple examples of what I mean, but a lot of our houses here are usually one story. We really like beige. You'll see beige tile everywhere, oftentimes even in the bedrooms. They paint all of the walls beige, both inside and outside. The houses are often all garage. At least it looks like that from the front. And sometimes they'll do these pool screens that look like a giant cage attached to the back of the house. This is kind of an example of what I'm talking about. And this one might even be a little bit nicer because it's got some stone accents and it's not beige, it's gray. But you see what I mean by all garage. Here's another one. This one's also trying to be a little bit fancy because we've got some different trim at the base and it even has columns. Again, all garage. This one is like really fancy because it has the tile roof. But this part here on the left, garage, it also has these big arched windows that you'll see a lot. And they like to do this weird column thing where this whole area is just one story. It's gonna have like ridiculously tall ceilings in there. A lot of these fancier houses in Florida were built in the early 2000s and they have unnaturally, almost uncomfortably tall ceilings. And then weird stuff like these wall niches just built in. And this one's nice because it's got like a countertop and a light built in, but I just find this kind of strange. Here's another example of a house, kind of same thing with the weird tall bit right here. This one's also kind of simple, more common. You might see it more often. And this one's actually like a bluish gray, but it has that same weird tall bit over the front door and the house is all garage. And this is what I mean by pool screen. So I wasn't kidding when I say it looks like a cage just attached to the back of the house. This is probably the most jarring thing for people who aren't from Florida. Whenever I've talked about this on my Twitch streams, I get some wacky comments because people cannot comprehend this. A lot of people think that it's glass. A lot of people think it's ugly and they're not wrong for that, but this is a screen around the pool and they build this for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps out bugs and like critters and stuff, but it also helps keep your pool cleaner because otherwise like leaves and stuff will blow into it and that's annoying to have to clean so often. So people like to have these pool screens. It's actually kind of like a luxury to have a pool screen like this. My parents' house has a pool screen like this. It's really, really common. If you like dig around on Zillow, you will see these all over the place here in Florida. This is another example of kind of what it looks like from the inside. A lot of times our houses will have these sort of niches too with like a covered part of the patio. My house has this, but on my house, the screen just goes across this wall instead of across the whole thing. This is a little bit nicer than my house, but this is kind of an example of a screened-in porch where the roof covers it and then there's just a screen across the wall. And it's actually really nice because my cats can go outside on the patio, but it's safe for them because it's completely screened in. This is another kind of up close example of what the screens might look like. And then this one is one as it's being built. So you can see it's like a big metal frame and then they take this mesh and they use it to cover the whole thing. So it's not glass, it's just a mesh texture. So like wind, rain, all of that still gets in. It's just a net almost. So you can kind of see what I mean when I say that Florida houses are a little bit ugly. And I don't really have much interest in building that in The Sims because it's just not really my vibe. And oftentimes when I'll recreate real houses in the game, I'll change things to make it look better or make a little bit more sense in The Sims. But today I want to try to build an accurate Florida house. I don't have a specific reference photo. I'm kind of just doing it out of my brain because I have a lot of experience in the field of Florida houses. Let's just say I know this style very well. But with that introduction out of the way, I want to pop into the game now and show you a full Florida house speed build. And in true Florida fashion, I am starting with the garage. There's a couple of important things to note about this. Obviously, it's only one story, and you'll notice that it kind of has an interesting front, but the entire back and sides are just completely flat. You'll see that a lot in houses, especially new build houses, and not even like new build houses, but just houses that were built in the last like 20 something years. They really like to cheap out with stuff like that, which makes sense. You want to save money, but oftentimes the back will literally just be a complete flat wall. I mean, your house in real life might look like that. My house in real life looks like that. My parents' house looks like that. So that's what I was trying to go for here. And at first, I wasn't fully committed to the Florida house idea. I was just gonna do like a regular little screened-in porch, more more like mine. And then I thought, you know what? No, we're gonna do a full screened in patio. I want a pool screen. And so I really committed to the concept. I used the screened in windows that come from the greenhouse kit, and then I put a glass roof on top. So obviously in real life, it wouldn't be a glass roof, it would just be a screen, but we can't really achieve that in The Sims. And then I tried to make a more organic pool shape, because a lot of the pools that I've seen in real life, they're not really rectangles. They're more shaped like a bean or something. They have more rounded edges. They're a little bit curvy. Obviously, we can't do that in The Sims 4 because we can't have any curves with pools, but that's kind of what I was going for with these diagonal walls. Just imagine that it's smoother, okay? I also put an alligator in the pool. Just ignore that part, okay? Just ignore that thing. It's not like dangerous in The Sims. It's just like a little VFX item. So when you're playing the game, it might like randomly appear, but it doesn't affect anybody. Nobody's gonna get hurt by it. And that, my friends, is why we have pool screens, because you see that pond back behind this house? We're in Oasis Springs right now. In real life, there is an alligator in that pond. If there's a body of water in Florida, there is an alligator in it, I'm telling you. And sometimes alligators come into people's pools. I knew somebody, granted it was a baby alligator, but I knew somebody in middle school who had a baby alligator show up in their pool and they had to get someone to come move it. People also have snakes and stuff come in their pool, which is more common and kind of creepy. But anyway, on a more pleasant note, we're thinking about the floor plan of this house now. And I did a couple of things to try and mimic a lot of real life Florida houses with this. It's really common to have like kind of big, wide open floor plans these days, obviously. And it's also really common to have the primary bedroom off by itself. Like in my parents' house, their bedroom is to the left of the front door and the kids' bedrooms are all together to the right of the front door. So it kind of has its own like separate primary suite area going on. So I did that here on the right side. There's a big primary suite with a walk-in closet and an ensuite bathroom. And on the left side, there's 2 kids' bedrooms and a regular hall bathroom. The rest of the house is just one big open floor plan, kitchen, living, dining thing. I did something kind of weird with the kitchen cabinets, and this was really channeling Florida as well. It might also just be channeling like early 2000s, to be honest, but they really like to do these sort of like peninsula islands in these houses, and they're always on an angle. My parents' kitchen is like this too. They don't have a freestanding island, but they do have like a peninsula bar thing, and it's like angled towards the living room. And we can't really do this in The Sims, but a lot of times in real life, that part where the bar seating will be is like taller. So there'll be like a regular height counter, and then it like jumps up to bar height counters where the bar stools go. I think more commonly these days, people like to build completely flat countertops, but for a long time, the bar height was more popular. I had a hard time trying to achieve that in The Sims because it had like some weird angles and weird shaping to it, so it wasn't really working right, but I did what I could. I also put in a little half wall by the front door, which feels very Florida to me. My parents' house has a little half wall by the front door. My old townhouse had that. It's very common. I also put ceiling fans everywhere in all of the bedrooms. I used that little arch thing from the base game. It's just a wall item, but I used it there on the wall to kind of look like a niche in the wall. And then I went through and took the cottage living light, because it has like those 3 lights hanging down from it, and I attached it to the ceiling fan because that looks like every ceiling fan I've ever seen in Florida. My parents' house, every room has something like that. I also put sliding doors everywhere, so the 2 bedrooms have sliding doors, and I put like a double sliding door in the living room because I felt like it looked kind of nice to have the 2 spaces, like a wider one. In real life, it'd probably be a wider sliding door, but the ones from Eco Lifestyle were too wide, so I just used the base game one and put 2 of them. I realized that this whole thing is kind of niche. Like, most of you have never seen a Florida house and you have no idea what I'm talking about, but there are some people who live here. Maybe their grandma lives here. Maybe they went on vacation to Florida and stayed in a house like this on their trip. Some of you are gonna get this, and the rest of you are gonna laugh at this, and that's fine by me. I'm okay with that. As far as color scheme goes, I was really going for beige. We've got that beige marble tile on the floor. We got beige carpet. I put beige walls outside. There'll be beige walls inside. We even have like a brownie beige colored kitchen cabinet. On the outside, I struggled a lot with the roof texture. I ended up going for this kind of like brown shingle vibe, which I felt like kind of made sense. I thought about using one of the tile roofs, but I've never lived in a house that has a fancy tile roof like that. I think of those tile roofs as being really expensive and really fancy, so I didn't want to use that. I wanted to use like more of a plain normal shingle. And then with the landscaping, this isn't so much like a Florida thing, more so so it is just a real life landscaping thing, but landscaping that people do in real life never looks anything like what we do in The Sims. So I always struggle with that. I always struggle with trying to recreate real life plants, but in this, I think I was kind of onto something. So I tried to put a couple of planters because I feel like you see that all the time in real life, especially here. And so I made this like round planter box around a palm tree in the front yard, and I could totally see that happening in real life. I put like some gravel in it too, because I was kind of trying to make it seem like it had mulch. And then I did some pavers on the patio, and now we're moving into the backyard for a second, and I decided to do a couple of fun things back here. I made the pool, I put the pavers down, and then I started thinking about lights, because we have these really nice lights from the little campers kit, and so I was sizing them up and then trying to place them all the way across the pool. It was kind of annoying to place them because they kept jumping to the wrong height. I ended up having to move the pool just to do it. And also, these are kind of weird because they like swing up and it looks like they're touching something, except in real life, the pool screen is like arched, so the lights wouldn't be touching the top of it. Just ignore that part, okay? Imagine it's like one big string all the way across, okay? That's the best that we can do. I don't know if that makes sense, but what I mean is they're not attached in multiple places like that, so it looks a little bit weird. Outside on the patio, I put a couple extra things like a bar and grill space. I put some lounge chairs. We've got a little table. This is a really nice outdoor patio. I have never had anything this fancy. The only thing about this that looks like my parents' house is the fact that it has like a little planter in the corner. If you can see in the back left corner of this, there's like a little tiny palm tree back there. My parents have like a little bit that's got some dirt and they have some plants in it. I won't lie, this actually seems like a really nice place to hang out. It is kind of pretty. And imagine if you had cats, they could come sit out here and it's all screened in, so it's all safe for them. It looks horrible from the outside, but functionally having the screen is kind of nice. You got to admit, it's kind of useful. There is a little tiny bit of concrete outside of the screened in porch, and I actually didn't put anything on that. I was kind of thinking about my parents' house too, and they have like a little tiny concrete slab outside of the door that goes from the guest room area. I was thinking about my parents' house, and they have like a little tiny concrete slab. In The Sims, it would be like 2 tiles that goes outside of one of their back doors into the grass. And so they don't put anything on it. So I didn't put anything on this concrete slab, even though in The Sims it's a bit bigger. But anyway, moving on to the inside, we're actually starting to think about furniture and color schemes and wallpapers and stuff. I'm going into the garage first, and in here I put laundry in the garage. A lot of people in Florida in real life have laundry inside their house. I think it kind of goes a couple of ways. Oftentimes people have a closet with a washer and dryer in it. Sometimes if it's a nice house, you've got a full-on laundry room with like it's basically a bigger closet that has washer and dryer in it. But also you might find the laundry in like a carport or in the garage. I think it's kind of the equivalent of people having laundry in their basements, but we don't have basements here, so people put it in the garage. So I did that in this garage. I put the washer and dryer. I put a fridge out here. We've got like some storage and a woodworking table and some boxes. In this garage, we never had a fridge in our garage growing up, but my neighbor did, and her parents used to keep those little ice pops. And they're like basically a plastic tube of juice, and then you would freeze it. They would keep a ton of those little ice pops in their garage freezer, and I thought it was so cool. So when I put that in the garage, I was like, they've got ice pops in here. And this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but you might notice that I'm using a fair bit of like the greenhouse kit and the basement kit in this build. And that's because I actually built this in April of 2023. It has been a full year since I built this in real life. I just forgot that I had the footage. It's been sitting on my computer the whole time. But this is like the long lost speed build. I looked on the gallery earlier and I saw it was uploaded on April 23rd, 2023. I knew it was a while ago. I did not realize it was that long ago. So I'm sorry about that. I did not realize just how old it was. And if you go looking for this house, you are gonna have to scroll for a while. But it's okay, it's fine. We're going through and furnishing more of the living space now, and I'm adding in a couple of things. I put in like a nice living room. It's got a nice beige sofa. It's got a nice recliner, lounge chair thing. We've got a round dining table. I was struggling a lot with the living space. That was probably the hardest part for me, was just trying to figure out where stuff should go and how I should fit it all together. It's kind of a weird shape, so I was having a hard time with it. I don't think it's a bad shape though. I could totally see this happening in real life, this space, this layout. A couple other funny things, like this glass coffee table. We had a glass coffee table when I was growing up, and I'm sorry to put this on blast, but my brother smashed the glass coffee table. He was probably like 5 years old, maybe even younger than that. And he got a golf club because he had like kid-sized golf clubs. He brought it inside and he was swinging it in the house and he smashed the glass coffee table. It was by accident. He didn't do it on purpose, but he was swinging golf clubs in the house. So I don't know what you expected. But after that, we no longer had a glass coffee table. In fact, for a while, we had no coffee table. But when I put that one here in this house, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. The other thing that I was really sad about that I wanted to do so badly was put the microwave above the stove. Because in every house I have ever lived in, the microwave is above the oven and the microwave is kind of like the vent above the oven. But you just can't do that in The Sims. The microwaves have to slot to a counter and you can't raise them up. I was trying a couple things like sizing the counter down and raising it up anyway, but it just didn't fit right because it wasn't like the same size as the cabinetry. And I think it wouldn't function anyway if it was raised up. But that is one of my greatest wishes for The Sims 4. I would love to have a microwave that builds in like that. Even if it was lower, like in the floor cabinets and it's slotted into a cabinet, kind of like how the dishwashers do. Because you see that in fancy houses sometimes. They'll have a microwave that's like lower like that. I just don't like having the microwave just sitting on the counter. I'm not really a huge fan of it, especially for like fancy houses. Like, I'm sorry, the land grabs do not have a microwave just on their counter. They absolutely have that built in. They probably have like a fancy appliance cabinet so it looks hidden and you can't see it. But anyway, I'm decorating the bedrooms now. You can see I'm working on this primary bedroom. I didn't love the furniture in here. I put a couple things like a TV across from the bed. They have some fishing decor too. Like they have a fishing rod above the bed and like some lures in a cabinet on the side. It's all very beige and very plain. The kids' rooms are a little bit more exciting. One of them, the one that has the sliding glass door in it, I tried to make this one into like a combination guest room, work from home space. I think that a lot of people have been doing that in real life these days where they have their desk in a room and then they also have like a guest bed in there kind of tucked away. So in this room, I went for like office, but also beach guest room. So it had like kind of a plain bed. I put this nice little beach wallpaper. I put this nice little beachy painting, but they also have a desk and their laptop in there. And then moving into the other kids room, this one is actually a kids room. And this one I made for an infant, which, you know, is fun. But if you remember the context, I built this in April of 2023. So the infant update had just come out. Infants were like the newest, coolest, brand new addition to The Sims 4, which is funny looking back on it now because it's been a whole year. But we were all extremely excited about infants and putting stuff for them everywhere. This room kind of has like a frog theme. I used frog rugs and frog wall decals and some green decor. I actually kind of like it. I should do this sort of style more often. It's not a huge house in general, so we're just about done with the whole thing. And what I want to do now is pop back into the game and give you a tour of the finished product. So I built this over here on this 30 by 20 lot in Oasis Springs. I liked how it had a lake behind it because that kind of feels like Florida to me. We've got ponds and lakes everywhere in this place. It's a swamp, so there's water all over the place. And this is what the house looks like from the front. As you can see, the front yard is very simple. I did a couple of cute things with the landscaping. Like I have this tree surrounded by some flowers. Over here, I've got like a bush and some flowers in front of it. I'm not obsessed with this landscaping in The Sims. I think I would probably add some more flowers and stuff to fill it up and make it more lush. But I think that this is very realistic for real life landscaping. So I kept it a little bit more simple. I also put a couple of planters by the garage. So we have like some pretty lights and the planters surrounding each side of the garage door. There is a fancy car in the driveway. Obviously a fake car, but a fancy car nonetheless. And then you can walk up to the front door from here. When you first walk in the front door, we have a couple of things for storage. We've got a little table to leave your keys and stuff on. We've got some shoes and a backpack lined up by the front door. There's umbrellas because it's Florida and you're gonna need them. We've got like a mail rack. This is that half wall I was telling you about. Very realistic. We've got those all over the place. And then if you come a little bit further in, we have this nice big dining table. This is kind of what I was talking about by wall niche. I was trying to pretend it was one. It's not really one, but I wanted it to look like one. And then further back again, we've got the living room. I put some built-ins around this TV. They've got a nice coffee table with some storage. And then we have the kitchen, which is kind of small, but functional. It's got that interesting shape with the peninsula. They've got some clutter. Over here to the left, this is like the dogs section. So they have the dog bowls and the leashes and stuff. I put the fire alarm really up high on the wall and in like all of the rooms. In my personal experience, it's usually on the ceiling, but you can't do that in The Sims. But that's fire code. So I put it everywhere. They've got a a very small hall bathroom with a shower tub combo. They've got a counter with a sink, so there's some storage. I put a plunger in there because I was trying to be realistic. And then we just have 2 bedrooms this way. The first one is that little baby's bedroom. So they have a changing table and the crib and some toys and a bookshelf. And then we have that office guest room combo right here. I did that fun thing with the ceiling where I have the ceiling fan and the light hanging from it. I was basically trying to make it look like this because this is like the ceiling fan. You see these all over the place here. This is so what I'm used to. My childhood bedroom had this. My entire parents' house has this in every single room. So that's what I was trying to make this look like. All the way across the other side, we've got this little hallway that leads you into the garage. I put the thermostat right there next to it. And then in the garage, we have all that storage. We've got the fridge with the ice pops. We have the laundry, just some random boxes and things in here. The trash cans in here as well. And then last but not least for the inside, we've got the primary bedroom right here. I put carpet in all the bedrooms and then they have like a sliding door to get outside. This room is quite simple. I also put, and this is kind of controversial, but I put archways into the closet and bathrooms, and this happens all the time. I don't know why they do this, but there isn't like a closed door into the bathroom. There's just an open archway, and so I have that here. I think oftentimes when that happens, they might have like a separate room for the toilet and it would be closed off, but this house doesn't have that. But they have a nice big counter, shower tub combo, a toilet back here, and they also have a walk-in closet. I never put closets in my Sims builds, but realistically, these bedrooms probably have a closet too. They're just kind of small, so I didn't try and fit one in. But I think for a room to be counted as a bedroom in Florida, it has to have a closet. That's like a rule, but what do I know? I just make Sims builds. So that's the whole interior. And then outside, we've got a few sliding doors to get out here. We have that huge pool. There's an alligator. I put a little table. We've got some like pool cleaning supplies, a couple more planter boxes. There's a grill and like some lemonade. I put this fancy sun on the wall because I thought that was kind of Florida vibes. We also have some lounge chairs. And then this is what I was talking about looking like my parents' house. My parents' house has like a little corner planter in their screen and there's some flowers in it. So I was channeling that too. Also important to note is that the pool and the screen takes up like the entire backyard. There's basically no other yard. That is very common in real life too. That happens all the time. But that, my friends, is the fully finished Florida house. If you're looking for it on the gallery, if the gallery wants to work, oh no. Maybe you shouldn't look for it on the gallery. Oh, there we go. Okay, if you're looking for it, if you go to my gallery page and you search Florida, this will be the easiest way to find it because, maybe I'll re-upload it. How about that? I built it in April of 2023 again, so it's re-uploaded. So you can find it easier now because it's there again. There we go. A full year later, double upload. Hopefully you enjoyed this video though. This is a little bit different for me. I don't normally try and do things that I think are ugly on purpose, but let me know if we should do some other specific regional styles. I'm not as familiar with other ones, but it might be kind of a fun series to try and build houses that look like they're from different places around the world. And if this is your first time learning about a pool screen, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know it's ugly, but they're everywhere. And with that, I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. I know there are some people from Florida who are gonna think this is really fun. A lot of you are gonna think it's weird, but somebody out there is gonna like this.